This video is brought to you by my wonderful supporters over on Patreon. Check us out and get access to our weekly guided practice routines and ear training sessions. Hi everybody, Levi Clay here, and I'm back again to talk about the subject of ear training. And today's video comes after a very interesting comment that encouraged me to do a little bit more research on my last video. So Graham Bennett wrote in and said, I'm going to read this exactly. Graham said, "Are you actually able to hear the sound in your head, like an auditory hallucination? Or are you just humming it? I can hum the notes before it happens, but I can't conjure up sounds in my mind. That would be amazing." And when we really think about what he's talking about there, it sounds like initially you would think, well, maybe Graham's talking about not being very good at the skill of audiation, being able to hear a sound before it happens. But actually, when you dig into it, you may be aware of a condition known as aphantasia. Now, aphantasia, I believe, was coined back in 2015. It's a relatively new condition that we've sort of discovered is a thing, and affects potentially 2% of the population. And I guess what I'm looking at today or wondering about is, is anyone out there in my audience a sufferer of aphantasia, more specifically auditory aphantasia? So what do I mean by that? Well, aphantasia is the condition or the brain state where you are unable, very strange thing to say this, you are unable to see things in your mind. You can't imagine images in your mind. You can't see images. So if I say to you now, imagine a pink elephant, I can imagine a pink elephant in my mind. I can see a pink elephant in my mind. And it may seem alien to you that some people are unable to do that, but a small portion of the population are absolutely unable to do that. Let me read a little bit more about this for you. So, Alan Kendall from England has never been able to visualize images. This was published on the journal.ie. He explained to the journal.ie, it's an inability to visualize it in your mind. It's not that you can't think of something, but the thing that you think of doesn't have any physical structure or form as an object in your head. Continues on, since the discovery of the condition, scientists have also come to understand that some people with aphantasia can't hear sounds in their mind. I don't hear anything in my head. People say that they can hear music in their head, but I don't hear anything. Now, that's a really strange thing to think about, right? I have another example that I'll bring up in a second. At its core, I know what you're probably thinking. You're thinking, well, Levi, why would anybody with aphantasia, the inability to hear music, why would they be a musician? Surely you won't have anybody like that on your channel. But I was talking to Melissa about this last night, and I guess it's actually entirely possible. Imagine hearing a song on the radio that you really, really enjoyed. You loved it, thought it was a great song. And when the song finished, you could remember that you loved the song that you heard, but you couldn't hear the song. The song had gone. And that was a reason for you to listen to the song again. That was a reason to drive you forward in music, because you constantly wanted to hear those amazing sounds that you were unable to actually conceptualize in your mind. It's a really fascinating concept to me. And as I said, I'd love to get into some conversation with some of you guys if this is something that any of you out there experience. I'll give you another example here. I was reading this quote here. So I was having dinner with my wife when she told me that she had a song stuck in her head. And when I asked her what she meant by this, she described an experience akin to hearing the song play over and over again in her mind. What do you mean that you can hear the song playing? I remember asking her curiously. She elaborated by telling me that she could hear the music as if it were playing in real time at that exact moment. I was shocked. How is it possible to hear music when not actually playing music? Absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Now, again, at its core, what I'm talking about here is the idea of improving your audiation, your ability to hear sounds before they happen. We as musicians, or certainly many of my students, are lacking in that area. We can all be better at it. The consequence of not being able to imagine a sound before you play it is everything needs to be predetermined and planned out. Everything needs to exist outside of the mind before you're able to play it. So everything you play may be a physical finger movement on the instrument, rather than having a very strong concept in your mind of the sound that you're looking to play. Hearing something in your mind that you want to play and then playing that thing. That's a very different thing than, going through the motions, doing a dance routine or whatever it happens to be, to recreate something that you'd composed beforehand or something that you've learned from a record. Now, I'm covering audition and really focusing on hearing these sounds in depth in my weekly guided ear training sessions over on Patreon. But I'll give you a quick example just so you can drill it a little bit further. So the first example I always jump to is a fifth. So hearing this note, the C, ba, we should know what a fifth above that sounds like. And you notice I'm not playing it yet. Ba. So the exercise would be I would play the C. You'll listen very carefully to this, and then you'll sing a fifth higher than that. Ba, ba. Then you play the fifth to test whether or not you've got that accurate. Now, like I say, I like picking a fifth because it's a relatively easy interval to hear. I think it's probably the easiest one. We'll talk about how we're doing that in a second. So here's a G. Ba. Can we hear a fifth higher than that? Ba, ba. Shouldn't be too difficult. For me, I'm using the reference melody of Star Wars. Bum, bum, ba, da, ba, ba, ba. I did have somebody say, actually, on the last video that they think that it's a very bad method to use reference songs in order to be able to learn the sound of an interval, and I couldn't disagree with that more. Obviously, in a teaching sense, right now, when I give you a reference melody like Star Wars, that's not the long-term way of knowing these things. You transition from having a reference to immediately just being able to identify the sound of the interval. But to just suggest to people that, well, you just need to know what a fifth sounds like. And you say to them, well, how do I learn that? Well, you just kind of need to know what a fifth sounds like. Sure, but help me out here. How do I go about learning that? Well, the fifth just kind of sounds like a thing. And if you listen to it, you should know what that makes you feel like. And the more you listen to it, the more you'll know what the thing sounds like. As a teacher, that's a terrible way to teach. Don't do that. A reference melody is absolutely fine and great. Some of the best teachers of all time in many different genres all use reference melodies as way, both for ascending and descending melodies, to find these things. So I'm going to go to what we've been focusing on weekly guided practice routines and weekly guided ear training sessions today. And this is probably going to be a challenge for some of you. So we've been looking at the flat 7. The interval of a flat 7. That's the note that you would find at the top of a dominant chord. And hearing the difference between a flat 7 on a chord and a major 7 on a chord. Here's a major 7. That's the interval of a major 7th. And here's the interval of a minor 7th or a flat 7th. And we need to be able to hear those intervals, hear those melodies before playing them. Because in an improvisational context, in a compositional context, in a playing music context, let's take it actually away from improvisation. So when I go out and play live now, when I'm having to play songs, I don't want to have to remember physically, put my fingers here, do this, do that. I can hear the song in my head when I'm playing, and that allows me to play along to the song because I've developed that ability. I can assure you I was not born with that ability. Learning songs was a very hard process growing up, but now I can hear the song that I'm looking to play, and I'm able, because my ear is good, I can hear the harmony and the voice leading and all of this. I can play around with the song, so when I play a song live now, it's pretty much going to be different every single time I play it. But at its core, I can hear intervals. I can hear the movements between chords. If you want to be able to hear a 1, 6, 2, 5 as a chord progression and then hear or voice lead chords through that, you need to understand what each one of those chords sounds like individually, what it sounds like to go from one chord to another. And this is a great way to start on that. So working on the sound of a flat 7. So if I play the note C, how are we going to hear that flat 7? Here's our note C. Ba, ba. Can you hear a flat 7 on top of that? On its own, an incredibly difficult skill, a difficult question to ask. And I've seen people do different things on this. I've seen people sometimes, if I ask them to sing a flat 7, they will sing the first note, ba, and then in their mind, they'll try and sing up the scale. Ba, 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 ba. They'll get to that 7, ba, but we don't want a 7, we want a flat 7. So they'll try and do all of that in their mind. Obviously, you can't sing out loud when somebody asks you this because you don't want them to know that you're using a shortcut. So we want a reference to be able to do this. And I promise you that when you learn your references for these, find ones that work for you, you will move to that stage in your ear training where you no longer need a reference to hear them. So when I hear the note C or any note, and I need to hear a flat 7 above this, I hear The Winner Takes It All by ABBA. Nice and simple, right? So I hear this note, ba 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 ba, the winner takes it all. That melody, ba 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 ba, that's my flat 7. Ba 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 ba. And in theory, we should be able to take any note. So if I took the note A, for example, ba ba, we should be able to hear the winner takes it all. That's going to be my way of hearing that flat 7. Different people have different reference melodies. When I was younger, I used Can't Stop by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's too staccato, it's too fast. There's a very strong vocal melody. There's a lyric associated with it, which I find really helps for internalizing a melody. Anyway, so back onto the point of the video. That's a skill, audiation, and being able to hear a sound in your mind before you've played the sound. Hear a sound in your mind before you need to play a sound. Hear where a sound is going, and again, being able to hear the future. All of these skills fall under that skill of audiation. And I'd be fascinated to know if there are any of you out there that suffer from aphantasia, are unable to visualize physical concepts in their mind, physical things, and are unable potentially to even imagine sound without hearing the sound. If you do have that, let me know in the comments below, because I would love to have a conversation with you and potentially do another video on the subject, maybe with you. So let me know in that comment section below. Lastly, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of my wonderful supporters over on Patreon. Couldn't do this without you guys. You've been amazing, so thank you so much for your love, kindness, and support, guys. If you want to be like these awesome people and get involved in my weekly guided ear training sessions or weekly guided practice routines, check out the link in the description to my Patreon page. Loads of stuff that you can learn over there. We're having a lot of fun with it, and yeah, develop your ear, become a better player, and get involved in the community. Get access to my Facebook group, and maybe even have private lessons with me. There's a limited amount of those available, so take advantage if you can. If that doesn't suit, you can also head on over to Amazon and check out one of my many books available. Oh, there we go, guys. Aphantasia. What do you think about this? Let me know in that comment section below. Thank you so much for checking this video, and I will see you for another video very soon. Goodbye.